Before the heavens trembled and ancient devils screamed before azure light tore through flesh and soul alike, there was only a single thought in Han Li's mind: end it here. Within the suffocating brilliance of the Great North essence, light fate itself held its breath. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. After the giant skeleton was seared by the condensed Great North essence light, strands of pale radiance began to course through its colossal frame. The white glow flowed like living silk across bone and fissure, sealing the gaping holes almost as quickly as they had been torn open. Han Li's brows drew together. It seemed he would have to eliminate old devil Qian first. Though the massive skeleton appeared ponderous in its movements, each step carried it an astonishing distance. In but a few strides, it loomed before Guiling, a mountain of death closing in. Crimson light burned within its hollow sockets. It brought its hands to its ribcage and with a chilling crack tore free 2 ribs, shaping them into a pair of 3-meter-long bone sabers. With a flick of its wrists, inky devil flames erupted along the blades, writhing like serpents awakened from slumber. Guiling answered with a cold snort. Stepping forward without hesitation, she swung her axe down in a ruthless arc. Silver light exploded outward. Thunder rolled through the hall. The bone sabers swelled several-fold in size and crossed before the skeleton's skull, intercepting the descending axe in a clash that shook the air itself. Guiling showed no surprise. Instead, a savage glint ignited in her eyes. Tiger Devour. Her weapon flared once more. From within the blazing radiance, a colossal beast's head emerged, the phantom of a single-horned white tiger. Its jaws gaped wide as it lunged forward in a blur of brilliance fangs, sinking viciously into the skeleton's skull. In a single savage motion, the head was devoured whole. The tiger phantom withdrew as swiftly as it had appeared. The silver axe was not merely a weapon of brutal edge, it housed an artifact spirit. Guiling pressed her advantage. Spinning the axe like a wheel of annihilation, she carved into the skeleton with relentless precision. Cold silver light spiraled outward as bone shattered beneath her assault. Fragments rained down like a storm of ivory shards. At last she halted. Drawing in a breath, she exhaled a torrent of yellow flames onto the ground, intending to deliver the final blow to the Sinker Devils. Yet contrary to expectation, the alarm that had flickered across old Devil Qian's face vanished the instant he saw her demon flames surge forth. He merely muttered an incantation, his voice low and steady, and activated a devilish art. An icy wind swept through the raging yellow inferno, suppressing it with chilling authority. From within the demon flames, 5 crystalline black threads shot outward. They tore through the air, detonating in an explosion over 30 meters wide. Grey chi billowed from the blast, then slowly dissipated. When the smoke cleared, 5 flawless skeletons stood in perfect formation, untouched. Guiling's expression changed at once. Intangible devil form. Who would have thought your incarnations had cultivated such an ability? Do you not fear the backlash in the future? Old Devil Qian's voice was calm, almost dismissive. Why would I concern myself with something so trivial? As if I would grant them the chance. With but a thought, he activated another devilish technique. The 5 skeletons leapt forward and fused once more into their towering form. Instantly, the bone sabers reappeared in its grasp, and the massive figure charged at Guiling with murderous intent. This time she did not summon the tiger spirit again. Instead, she met the assault head-on. An axe blazing with icy radiance collided against twin bone sabers shrouded in ghostly white mist. Their weapons clashed again and again in an unending storm of force. Each impact unleashed a deafening boom that reverberated through the hall. The very structure trembled as though it might collapse under the violence. Watching from afar, Han Li narrowed his eyes. Though Guiling had regained her magic power and assumed her giant form, the lingering Great North essence light was steadily eroding her strength. No matter how resilient her crimson armor might be, she could not endure within that radiance for long. The battle had to end quickly. His gaze shifted to the crimson silhouette in the distance. His expression turned stern as he silently commanded the yang ring hovering above him. From the surrounding silver brilliance, several ropes of condensed light formed in silence. They materialized behind old Devil Qian like vipers gliding through tall grass poised to strike. The instant they drew near, old Devil Qian sensed danger. His body blurred. But it was too late. 8 chains of silver light pierced through him without warning. For a fleeting moment, surprise flickered across his features. Yet when he lowered his gaze to the ropes skewering his body, a wicked smile curved his lips. Such wounds meant nothing to him. With a mere thought, he could restore himself. But soon his smile faltered. The silver ropes did not vanish. Instead, they radiated with steady brilliance, their presence solid and unyielding. "Restrain," Han Li shouted. Like constricting pythons, the chains coiled tightly, exerting immense force. The crimson body was torn apart into 8 separate fragments. In furious alarm, old Devil Qian dispersed into a cloud of blood mist and shot away before recondensing at a distance. Yet the silver ropes pursued him relentlessly. Again and again he dissolved into blood mist, only to be shredded the instant he reformed. Each time the mist grew thinner, more tenuous. "You're courting death." His voice roared from within the blood haze, fury and strain unmistakable. To make matters worse, Han Li condensed the silver ropes directly within the Great North Essence light, preventing any chance of escape as the devil attempted to reform. At last the blood mist ceased to scatter. Instead, it compressed into a flare of crimson brilliance, coalescing into a pearl the size of a fist. The orb was as red as fresh blood. Demonic light shimmered across its surface, and a thick metallic scent filled the air. The Blood Devil Pearl. Han Li's lips twitched. Old Devil Qian's voice rang from within it. "Do you think I fear you? Hand over your life." The pearl shot toward Han Li in a streak of scarlet fire rage boiling within. Han Li inhaled deeply and moved without hesitation. Spell seals flashed from his fingers toward the yang ring above him. Silver ropes lashed out, striking the pearl in bursts of brilliance. Though many blows connected, a green barrier flared around the orb, repelling the attacks with resonant hums. Han Li's expression did not change. In one hand, golden lightning gathered into a crackling sphere. In the other, he tightened his grip on the tri-flame fan. Old Devil Qian had long ago sealed his nascent soul within the Blood Devil Pearl. To kill him, the pearl itself had to be destroyed. This treasure was infamous within the Devil Dao, a second body for one's nascent soul. It was said that refining it required the blood essence of over 100 spirit beasts, along with the cultivation of several obscure devil arts. The method had been lost to time, until it resurfaced in the hands of the Yin sifting sect. And now, in this monstrous cultivator's possession. Yet therein lay opportunity. Once the pearl closed the distance, Han Li would unleash divine devilbane. Lightning confine it, and follow with the devastating might of the tri-flame fan. No treasure could endure that storm. But just as he prepared to meet it, the pearl halted abruptly. A foot-tall crimson flame erupted around it. Then it vanished. Han Li's heart tightened. His spiritual sense surged outward, wary of ambush. Moments later, he froze. The flaming Blood Devil Pearl had reappeared, but not beside him. It hovered at the very edge of the Great North Essence light. Old Devil Qian's laughter thundered through the hall. "Youngster, do you take me for a senile fool? To battle 2 high-grade opponents here is sheer stupidity. I shall entertain you properly outside with reinforcements." With that, the pearl plunged into the sea of silver light. By the time Han Li reacted, pursuit was impossible. Yet no panic surfaced on his face. Instead, his gaze shifted back to Guiling's struggle against the Cinque Devils. Thunder cracked behind him. A pair of wings unfurled from his back in a flash of light, and in an instant, he appeared at the boundary of the Great North Essence light. Coldly, he stared in the direction of the devil's escape and raised the tri-flame fan. A trace of hesitation flickered across his features. Then he opened his mouth and spat out a fist-sized object wrapped in azure radiance, the heaven-void cauldron. At that very moment, a tremendous explosion rang out, followed by old Devil Qian's furious curses. The surrounding light churned violently. A crimson streak and a sphere of blinding silver brilliance burst into view. The crimson streak was the blood devil pearl, its flames now diminished by nearly half. As for the silver radiance opposite it within its glow, the faint outline of a slender figure could just barely be discerned. When old devil Qian saw Han Li appear before him, his heart jolted violently, and the blood devil pearl halted mid-flight as if seized by an invisible hand. Behind the pearl, the silver silhouette finally moved. It lifted a small bow fingers, drawing back an invisible string. In the next breath, a dense barrage of crimson arrows materialized from nothingness and tore through the air in a torrential storm. At the same moment, Han Li's lips curved into a faint smile. The tri-flame fan in his grasp flared brilliantly. With the cry of a phoenix that shook the heavens, a blazing bird erupted forth and hurtled toward the blood devil pearl. Old devil Qian found himself caught between hammer and anvil. He had witnessed the tri-flame fan's destructive might before. He knew he could not afford to take it head-on. Yet the arrow storm behind him was no less terrifying, especially given that he was already wounded from a previous clash. For a heartbeat, hesitation flickered. Then the blood devil pearl emitted a shrill scream and shot backward. Crimson light surged violently across its surface. A grey, ghostly face surfaced upon it, and from its gaping maw poured a torrent of pitch-black chi. Within the howling gusts, a meter-tall banner shimmered into existence. Sparkling with eerie green light amidst the inky darkness, the ghost-sifting banner. Han Li recognized it instantly. Aside from the density of its devilish chi, it was nearly identical to the banner he himself possessed. The banner unfurled before the pearl like a curtain of night. Yin winds erupted in every direction. Black fog churned and thickened. Twisted, ghostly heads emerged from within, shrieking as they spat streams of ghost fire at the incoming arrows. As the red arrows pierced into the yin-ki, violent detonations rang out in rapid succession. Seizing the moment, old devil Qian cloaked the blood devil pearl within the banner's power and fled. But when he glanced back, dread seized his heart. The phoenix of flame was still pursuing him, its wings blazing its cry unrelenting. Gritting his teeth, the old devil steeled himself. The banner burst with brilliant green radiance. A black void opened above it, swallowing light itself. From within surged a torrent of pitch-black yin-ki, and then an inch-tall ghost shot forth. The moment it emerged, it swelled rapidly, growing to 3 meters in height. Clad in glossy black armor and gripping a double-edged trident, it radiated a fierce and imposing aura. The fiend had clearly been confined within the banner for centuries. It shrieked excitedly upon its release until it sensed the terrifying phoenix bearing down upon it. Its cry died in its throat. In frantic alarm, it spewed a thick cloud of yin-ki and swung its trident wildly to intercept the oncoming flames. Though not on par with old devil Qian or Han Li, it possessed strength comparable to an early nascent soul cultivator. Yet after centuries of imprisonment, it faced annihilation the instant it tasted freedom, reduced to nothing more than a sacrificial pawn. A muffled explosion erupted as phoenix and fiend collided. A halo of mysterious light bloomed outward, pulsing once, then expanding into a radiant sphere over 30 meters wide. Talismanic characters swirled through the air like drifting constellations. When the brilliance faded, the ghost fiend and all the yin-ki surrounding it had vanished completely. Within that devastating nova, the blood devil pearl managed to wrap itself tightly in the ghost-sifting banner, narrowly shielding itself from obliteration. Old devil Qian inwardly exhaled in relief at surviving the successive assaults. But when he glanced at the banner, sorrow pierced his heart. Its once vivid glow had dimmed to a feeble shimmer. Its spiritual essence had been grievously damaged. The main apparition within it had perished, and the majority of its ghost mist had been wiped away by the tri-colored blaze. The ghost-sifting banner was famed as the yin-sifting sect's signature treasure, but not because of its individual might. Its true terror manifested only when all 18 banners were united. With the full set assembled, he had been confident he could withstand even a deity transformation cultivator, let alone Han Li and that horned woman. But the sect ancestor had decreed that unless calamity befell the sect, the 18 banners were never to be gathered under a single cultivator. They were normally distributed among the highest-ranking elders. Not even the Grand Elder could defy this command, and now one banner had already fallen into enemy hands. With a resentful thought, the ghostly face resurfaced on the Blood Devil Pearl, intent on absorbing the damaged banner back into itself. Having endured the Triflame Fan's strike, Old Devil Qian's fear of Han Li lessened somewhat. Such a treasure must consume enormous magic power. Han Li had already used it once, and then again so soon after. It was inconceivable that he could unleash it repeatedly. If that were possible, he would have long since been reduced to ash. Yet at that very moment, thunder boomed in the distance. An emerald streak burst forth from the cloaked silver silhouette. Not good. A chill ran through Old Devil Qian. When he had first fled in the Blood Devil Pearl, it was this very emerald streak that had ambushed him. The divine Devilbane lightning within had torn through much of his protective crimson blaze. He would not suffer the same humiliation twice. As the ghostly face absorbed the banner, the pearl blurred and grew indistinct. 3 meters away, the emerald streak reappeared, revealed now as a several-inch-long arrow of jade, crackling with arcs of golden lightning. With a thunderous clap, it shredded the after-image of the Blood Devil Pearl. Old Devil Qian had already shifted the pearl with a secret technique, leaving behind nothing but illusion. 40 meters away, a cloud of blood flame burst forth as the pearl re-emerged. But in that same instant, a flicker of black light materialized behind it, an inch-long flying saber gleaming like jet-black crystal. In a silent flash, it traced a thin black line across the air, passing through the pearl's defenses as though they did not exist. A sharp crack split the heavens. Old Devil Qian's wretched scream followed. The Blood Devil Pearl's surface shattered. Impossible, he stammered in disbelief. The Blood Devil Pearl cannot be broken so easily. Even the High Zenith sect's divine heaven-bound blade couldn't that. Flying saber is... Another muffled crack. The pearl exploded completely. From within emerged a single nascent soul. Yet it was a grotesque sight. A faint blood mist clung to it. In one hand it clutched a small banner. 5 pitch-black skulls were latched onto its tiny body, gnawing relentlessly, as if feeding upon its very essence. The scene was enough to chill even the boldest heart. The instant the pearl vanished, Old Devil Qian's nascent soul shrieked sharply and wrapped itself in the ghost-sifting banner, fleeing as a streak of black mist. At the same time, the colossal skeleton battling Gui Ling echoed the shriek. It leapt into the air and dissolved into 5 grey clouds that shot toward the fleeing nascent soul. Though he could no longer manifest the crimson silhouette, he could still merge with the Cinque Devils and possess their fused form. Guiling naturally had no intention of allowing their escape. Her towering body shrank instantly to its original size as she gave chase. If the nascent soul escaped beyond the Great North Essence light, it could perform instantaneous movement and reunite with the Cinque Devils without obstruction. But within this domain, its speed was limited to ordinary flight. It could not outrun Han Li's thunderstorm wings. As expected, thunder roared as Han Li vanished and reappeared directly before the fleeing nascent soul. He raised a hand. A net of golden lightning burst forth, recognizing the divine Devilbane lightning. Old Devil Qian panicked. He spat out a cloud of blood mist to momentarily block the attack and veered sharply aside. But another flash cut off his path. The silver silhouette. The radiance around it faded, revealing a pale, middle-aged cultivator clad in yellow robes. His expression was blank, lifeless. In his hand was a small red bow. It was the humanoid puppet, its cultivation equivalent to that of a late nascent soul cultivator. Yet it did not attack. Instead, its eyes flared with blinding purple light. Ripples spread through the air. The instant Old Devil Qian saw that light, he felt his consciousness drawn toward it, as though his very soul were being pulled free. Warmth spread through his body. His thoughts dulled. No, a bewitchment technique, though reduced to a nascent soul, His spiritual sense remained formidable. He forced himself awake, turning his head away in sheer shock, not daring to meet those eyes again. Black chi erupted from him as he fled in another direction. Then he sensed fluctuations of spiritual power above. Instinctively, he looked up. A small cauldron hovered there, revolving slowly, bathed in faint azure light. Though he had never seen it before, his 1,000 years of experience told him at once it was no ordinary treasure. Alarmed, he streaked away as black mist. The cauldron rang with a clear chime. Dense azure mist poured forth, spreading rapidly in the direction of his escape. At first, the azure radiance seemed no different from any other mist drifting through the air. But in the blink of an eye, it slipped behind old devil Qian's fleeing cloud of black chi. Under the brilliance of 1,000 piercing rays, a howl of agony erupted. The devilish chi melted away as if snow beneath the sun, revealing the crimson nascent soul and the ghost-sifting banner struggling within. An instant later, countless threads of azure mist lashed around the soul, binding it layer upon layer. Green light flared violently. Crimson flames roared in desperate resistance. Yet no matter how fiercely old devil Qian struggled, he could not tear free. A silver flash split the air. Hanli appeared beside the captive nascent soul, calm and composed. A faint smile curved his lips as he raised his hand. Spatial ripples trembled above them. The heaven-void cauldron descended from the void and dropped neatly into his grasp. Cradling the ancient treasure, Han Li regarded the bound nascent soul with an indifferent gaze. Terror twisted old devil Qian's tiny features. When he met Han Li's cold, hostile eyes, despair surged through him. Yet in the next heartbeat, vicious resolve ignited within his heart. With a grimace, he bit down hard on the tip of his tongue. Han Li's eyes turned icy. 2 sharp pops echoed in the air. A golden talisman and a silver talisman affixed themselves to the nascent soul's body, sealing his magic power and instantly dissolving the suicidal art he had been about to unleash. At that very moment, a flash of light flickered behind old devil Qian. The yellow-robed, middle-aged cultivator, the late nascent soul puppet, stood silently there. No one could say when it had arrived. Han Li's smile deepened, tinged with quiet calculation. From the very beginning of the ambush, he had instructed the puppet to conceal itself near the palace gates. If old devil Qian truly was as cunning as he believed, he would flee without hesitation. And since the puppet was not alive, suppressing its aura was effortless. Unless one saw it with their own eyes, it was nearly impossible to detect. Thus, as the old devil attempted his escape, he was ambushed by the golden lightning bamboo arrow and forced back into the depths of the hall. After shattering the blood devil pearl with the flying saber refined from devil essence diamond, Han Li had deliberately unleashed divine devil bane lightning to drive him into panic. As expected, in his frantic retreat, he had fallen straight into the puppet's trap. The witch eyes embedded within the puppet, refined from the brilliant glow, gem flared to life, casting him into a momentary bewitchment. Having personally experienced the terror of those eyes, Han Li was confident that even old devil Qian's formidable spiritual sense would falter for an instant, and that instant was all he required. While the eccentric devil's mind went blank, Han Li deployed the heaven-void cauldron and bound him without resistance. His gaze lowered briefly to the small cauldron in his hand. He had only refined the first layer of its artifact imprint technique. At present, he could merely command it to release a portion of its radiance. To truly open the cauldron's mysteries, he would likely need to reach late nascent soul stage. Fellow Taoist, Han, what shall we do with these devils? Heavy footsteps approached from behind. Goiling had returned a cloud of black and white chi swirling in her palm. Within it struggled 5 pure white skeletons, now reduced to a mere foot in height. With old devil Qian's nascent soul severed from them, the sinker devils had collapsed lifelessly, allowing her to restrain them with ease. Those 5... Han Li had just begun to speak when sudden shrieks pierced the air. The 5 jet-black skulls that had been gnawing at the nascent soul abruptly released their bite. Screaming madly, they spun and shot back toward the restrained skeletons. Their cries were not merely loud, They were mind-piercing, suffused with blood-chilling terror. The bound skeletons reacted instantly. Crimson light flared wildly within their eye sockets, and a nauseating stench of blood filled the air. Simultaneously, all five opened their mouths and struck a single point within the black and white mist with streams of deep green. Devil flame! An explosion thundered. Caught off guard, Guiling's restriction shattered. The five skeletons shot forward as streaks of white qi toward their corresponding skulls. Han Li let out a cold snort and waved the heaven-void cauldron. Azure mist surged forth, forming an impenetrable wall that blocked the streaks mid-flight. With another gesture, strands of azure light coiled around the skeletons, dragging them back and preventing reunion with the skulls. The skeletons descended into frenzied madness. Though bound tightly, their limbs thrashed with manic strength. They spat relentless streams of emerald flame at the azure threads, attempting to burn their way free. Seeing this, old devil Qian's nascent soul turned pale with horror. "No, you release them at once," he screamed. Han Li frowned, slightly puzzled by the urgency, but he paid no heed. What followed stunned even him. The skulls suddenly hissed sharply and reversed direction, hurtling back toward old devil Qian's nascent soul. But this time they did not simply latch on. Their jaws clamped down with savage force, clearly intent on devouring him whole. Devil backlash. Han Li's heart jolted. With his magic power greatly diminished and his control disrupted, the once obedient Cinque devils had turned feral, rebelling against their master. But Han Li had no intention of letting old devil Qian perish, not yet. He flicked his sleeve. The heaven-void cauldron chimed crisply. Countless azure threads burst forth, ensnaring the skulls and forcibly tearing them away from the nascent soul. Even so, the skulls snapped viciously at empty air, driven by lunatic hunger. Han Li ignored them and turned his attention to the nascent soul. Though the entire incident had lasted but a breath, the soul had been reduced to less than half its original size. It flickered weakly on the brink of dissolution. It made no difference to him. So long as it still existed, it sufficed. Taking a slow breath, Han Li seized the ghost-sifting banner at the soul's side. After a brief inspection, he slipped it into his storage pouch. His gaze then swept into the distance. The humanoid puppet flickered and vanished, only to return moments later, holding a black storage pouch. It had fallen when the Blood Devil Pearl shattered. Han Li did not examine its contents. Instead, he turned to Guiling. "Fellow Taoist Gui, please deal with the Cinque devils for now. I will handle this nascent soul." He had no wish for an audience during soul extraction. "Please proceed," Guiling replied calmly. "I will restrain them." She opened her mouth and exhaled a cloud of black and white mist, enveloping both skeletons and skulls. Taking over the restriction seamlessly, Han Li nodded. With a sweep of his sleeve, azure mist condensed into a massive hand that seized the nascent soul. A streak of azure light shot away, disappearing into the depths of the Great North Essence light. The puppet remained behind, motionless as stone. Guiling studied it for a long time. At last, a trace of astonishment surfaced in her eyes. Had she not witnessed Han Li summon it from a pouch with her own eyes? She would never have believed the middle-aged cultivator was merely a puppet. Time passed. A quarter-hour later, the Great North Essence light parted once more. Han Li emerged. His expression was unreadable. Old devil Qian's nascent soul was nowhere to be seen. When he approached, Guiling gestured toward the Cinque devils. "How shall we deal with them? To my knowledge, only prolonged refinement with powerful yang flames can erase them entirely." "Refine them?" Han Li paused thoughtfully. "There is no need. I have another use in mind. For now, sealing them will suffice." Though surprised, Guiling nodded readily. "Very well." Han Li flicked his sleeve. A dense swarm of talismans burst forth, blanketing skeletons and skulls alike. Multicolored spheres of light enveloped them instantly. He brought his palms together and snapped his fingers. Golden lightning arced outward, weaving layer upon layer of radiant threads around the bound devils. In a flash, more than 10 golden spheres floated before them. With a sequence of incantation gestures, Han Li sent spell seals into the spheres, compressing them rapidly until each shrank to the size of a fist. As he regarded them, a thought struck him. He opened his mouth and spat out a bubble suffused with solemn Buddhist light, the Vajra barrier he had long nurtured. Pointing lightly, he summoned forth a seven-colored radiance that swept up the golden spheres, absorbing them into the sacred orb. With divine devilbane lightning and the Buddhist treasure suppressing them together, no matter how vicious the creatures within escape would be impossible. Only then did Han Li feel at ease. He placed the Vajra barrier into a jade box and carefully stored it away. "Let us go," he said calmly. "Fellow Taoist Gi, you mentioned hidden locations upon this mountain. We shall conceal ourselves for a few days and wait for the seal's opening to recover." A hidden location. Guiling's eyes brightened. "I did happen upon such a place before. It should remain unknown to others." Without further delay, the two figures vanished into the shifting radiance, the battle's echoes fading into silence.